My grandmother died before I was born, so I don't have any memories of her of my own. All I have are the stories that my mom has told me, and one of those stories or memories that I have is of my mom telling me about her mom's wedding dress. My grandmother got married in 1940, and her dress was a long gown, gathered at the neck, long sleeves, lace, and it was blue.
Make it blue. Blue.
I just thought as a little girl, one, hearing that her wedding dress was blue kind of blew my mind as a child, having only ever seen white wedding gowns. And also the idea that it had a little matching hat was fun, because also I had only ever seen brides with veils. After I got engaged, I traveled back home and went wedding dress shopping. So I went out with my mom and some close friends and went around to a few different boutiques and tried on dresses. It was a really great experience. I'm glad that I went shopping and got to have the trying on dresses experience with my mom especially. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, but wouldn't it be great if I made my own dress? You know, sewing's a big hobby. I make lots of pretty dresses, and you know that feeling that you get when you're wearing something that you've made and someone compliments it, and then you get to say, oh, thanks, I made it. And you get that little feeling of pride. I kind of really wanted to have that with the wedding dress. But there were risks, right? I've never made a formal modern gown, so it's very intimidating. So after kind of thinking about it more, I decided, you know what? I am gonna make the dress, and I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope that it turns out. I'm gonna start in advance so that I have plenty of time, and if it doesn't work out, then I will figure it out. I'll either make another dress if I have time, or I'll have to, you know, panic shop and find a dress that works. The first thing that I thought of and decided was that I wanted the dress to be blue.
Make it blue.
I thought back to my grandmother's dress and my aunt's dress, which her dress was a white dress, but it had a blue sash and a blue train. So I just thought it would be nice if it was almost like a little family tradition. Here's where that trip to try on dresses actually was really helpful, because I had somewhat of an idea of, okay, here are the things that I like on my body, here are the things that I thought I liked, but that actually look horrible on me. So I wanted to feel and look beautiful, but I wanted to be comfortable, because I knew if I wasn't comfortable that I wouldn't feel beautiful, no matter what I actually looked like. The most challenging part of this whole process was taking my design and my idea and actually creating that concrete dress out of it. As I said, I've never designed anything myself. I always sort of rely on a picture or an image of something someone else has already made to kind of tell me what this thing is going to look like. And so it was really scary going from the design and the idea in my head to kind of mocking it up on paper to making it a real dress. And it presented real challenges in the construction process too. So the pattern that I chose had two seams on the skirt, kind of like starting under the bust and then going down to the floor, which gave it this really beautiful shape. And when I did the mock-up, I loved it. I thought, oh, this is so great. I love how this looks on me. This will be perfect. But what I didn't think about was what I would do when it came to the lace overlayer, because I didn't want the pattern on the lace to sort of be running in different directions as it would be meeting at those seams. And I didn't want there to be a visible seam on the front of the gown. It just never occurred to me during the pattern selection process and during the mock-up phase that those seam lines would bother me with the final fabric. There was a period in the middle of the project where I couldn't figure out how to get the lace to work, and I really thought that the project was going south and I almost abandoned it. There was a point where I was panic buying like vintage blue dresses online, and then I didn't like any of them. They just didn't seem bridal enough. I was really kind of starting to get worried. After a couple months, I ended up returning to the dress. And what I ended up doing to fix that problem was I didn't have the lace overlayer be shaped and fitted the same way that the underskirt was. I ended up just gathering it at the top, and it gets rid of a little bit of the shape of the pattern that I initially was drawn to. Gives it much more of like an Italian Renaissance kind of vibe. But honestly, I think that helps it with the whole fairy princess thing. Like giving it just that little bit of like somewhat historical flair, I think actually helps it just seem more like a me dress. It did mean that it wasn't as flattering, if we want to use that term, just because like the gathers right at the waist made it sort of poof out more. But ultimately, I think that it lended itself well to my initial goal of comfort and not having a restricted waist, because the design of the dress was to, you know, flow down and sort of poof out. I mean, I could expand my belly as far as it went and it was no difference in the final dress. You couldn't tell at all. So honestly, points to that for being able to eat as much as I want and be comfortable on the day, and not be self-conscious about what it was going to look like either.
Mock-up phase is complete. The skirt of the mock-up has been deconstructed so that I can just use this as my pattern pieces. We are looking at the skirt front. Now this line right here, this is what will go on the fold. So everything from like here over is one side, or like one half of the skirt. This piece is the same. This piece is a little bit changed. So I had to kind of like cut off some of it up here, and you can see like the line is kind of like a curve out, which makes sense because it kind of fits like perfectly over my bum, which, you know, is kind of large and roundish. The top here is like this swoop shape because the back is like at my natural waist, while this front sits just underneath my bust lines. And then when I cut it out, I just need to make sure that I add a bit of length on the bottom of all the pieces, because right now, I mean, the hem is very uneven, but also it's right at about the perfect length. If I want, I'm gonna wear flats. I don't know if I'm gonna do a narrow hem, if I'm gonna do like a big thick hem. What if I change my mind and decide to wear heels, right? So I just wanna add enough where like I will have plenty no matter what I decide. So I want to give you a little tour of the fabric pieces that I have cut out. Are all the skirt panels, and you can see that I've cut them longer than my mock-up. So there's going to be 3 layers. The first one will be that blue fabric, and then I have this like sheer organza. Got this like crinkle texture, and it adds just like kind of texture and glamour on top of that blue. The last layer will be this layer of lace. So here you can see like what that lace looks like, you know, on its own. And then here is all 3 layers together as compared to like the blue. So it gets just like a little bit more subdued. I guess I should take out like the middle layer because I kind of want you to see what it looks like. If I was to just do the lace over the blue, it stands out a little bit more. I feel like the organza just kind of like makes it look a little bit more luxe, more expensive, like more couture, if you will. And I've only cut out the lace for the bodice, but the skirt panels will also have the organza and the lace. I started bodice construction by sewing in the darts, making sure that I had all 3 layers sandwiched together.
The skirt layers all had to be done individually though, so I started out with my blue underskirt and sewed up all the side seams and pressed them open. Next, I moved back to the bodice and sewed up the side seams. Okay, so I'm trying to make a little decision here. Let me show you all what I'm thinking. So here is one of the seams of the skirt, and this is like the front side. This is the back side. So I've gone through and like hand stitched this down, because when I don't, it's like it doesn't lay flat enough even after ironing. But this is taking a really long time, and I've still got 1, 2, 3 other seams, not to mention the back seam. I'm gonna have to, probably hem this. I've got still like the lace layer to do, and I'm also probably gonna have to like hand tack this layer down. That's a lot of hand sewing, and it's just taking forever. So my thought is, what if I actually just tack this down on the machine? Like, if this was going to be the top layer, I wouldn't want to do that, because you'd be able to see like the machine stitching more than you can see the hand stitching. But like, it's translucent, one, so like you can already see the machine stitching just of like the part of the seam that's like holding it together, even though it's underneath another layer. This is gonna have lace over top of it, and the lace is gonna also have a seam in the same spot. So the lace is also going to be kind of like thicker and bulky, and I may like have to hand tack down the lace's seam, right, since it's the top layer. But I'm thinking for this layer, since it's not the top layer and it's going to have this lace over it, is anyone going to be able to notice if I do a row of machine stitches? I think what I might do is try it on the bottom, because a lot of that is going to get cut off anyways when I decide where I want to hem it, and then let's see how that looks, because I think that's going to save me a lot of time. Okay, as usual, we have a bit of a dilemma. So I laid the fabric out, and I didn't like how the pattern of the lace, which is a vertical pattern, started, sort of like slanting when you got more to the sides of the dress. I just really wasn't sure that that was gonna look right. So then I thought, well, I really liked how this lace looked when I was just like draping it on the dress. What if I just gathered it at the waist and had it be straight across? So that is what this looks like. So this is sort of pinned, obviously, like this, this would all go away. And I think because it's tulle, I'm like hopeful that, when I gather it, it won't be too floofy and like bunchy up at the top. But I really like how, like, I love the volume, I just love the pattern. Obviously it would be a little bit shorter too. But the only thing that's giving me pause is that part of what I love about the pattern of the dress is like the shape of the skirt and that like swooshiness. And I kind of think that if I just have this straight of grain, that it's going to like get rid of the shape and the swoosh. Let's say that I do cut it like this and I construct it, put it all together, and I don't like it. If that happens, I should still have enough fabric to just cut the pieces out on the original pattern and have done with it. I love the way it looks still, but I just, like, will it look as good with movement? Before I got too overwhelmed with that dilemma, I decided to move on to the sleeves. I really wanted to make these sheer poofy sleeves that were gathered at the wrist. I've seen these on a lot of wedding gown designs. I had tried some on when I went wedding dress shopping, hated them on myself, but thought it might just be because they were way too long for my arms. So I needed to try to make some myself. I basted the sleeves in by hand first so that I could get them positioned correctly and all, I guess, spread out and distributed in the sleeve cap. And then I went back and sewed it with my machine.
I think I don't like how busy it is. But the problem is that this lace fabric is so, like you can see it up here. To try and cut this out and make it into an applique, like it's just so detailed. And then, you know, it's like got little sections. Like it would just be a pain in the butt and really hard to make this into an applique because the design is so spread out. If I pull this up and actually use the bottom, and that way, like at the bottom of the skirt, the design would be more sparse. Maybe that will help. And then also, if I leave that a little spaced out, it'll give a nice flat place to put the trim onto. And then it'll also maybe, you know, help it look a little less like super crazy in those areas.
I sewed 2 rows of super wide stitches into the top edge of the skirt fabric so that I could use those to gather up the skirt and arrange it.
So I want to show you how I'm doing the lining here. I'm only lining the bodice, not lining the skirt, because I'm pinking the seams and kind of don't feel like doing it, and I don't have the fabric for it. And it's a dress that I'm likely only going to wear for one day, so it'll be fine. But I'm lining this like I would line an 18th century pair of stays or bodice. So I have this dress inside out right now, and I'm actually using for my lining material my Mockup fabric. I had the edges turned underneath and then stitched down by hand along all the edges. This is going to be overlapped by the lining from the front, so that raw edge is just kind of left long. And same thing at the shoulder seams. I have ironed all of the edges underneath, and then the only ones that I've left raw are the armholes, because I feel like that one it's easier for me to do on the garment and just kind of fold it in as I go. So then, yeah, this will get laid down over top, and then the side seam would line up like this, basically, and kind of cover that raw edge, and that'll get stitched down.
I also did test hair and makeup, and I actually added even more fake hair on the day of for a total of, I think, 4 different false hair pieces. I'm really glad that I made the wedding dress myself. It was so nice to be able to surprise my fiance, husband. He had not seen the dress before the day, and we did like a first look ceremony. He got to see it for the first time. It made that experience even more special. The dress turned out absolutely perfect. I grew a lot in my sewing skills and in my design skills, and I'm glad that I got to have my blue wedding dress just like my grandmother's.